If servant leadership means that it's not about you, then why am I about to spend the next 15 minutes telling you to focus on yourself? That tension, the difference between serving others and investing in yourself, that's something that I hear from leaders all the time. And if we don't resolve it, it will quietly erode everything you're trying to build. So today, I'm going to give you a framework for leading yourself first that actually increases your impact on everyone around you. And I'm going to explain why not doing this is actually the most selfish thing you can do. Let's get into it. This is a Leadership Unlocked. Here's what I see with senior leaders, those folks who are running organizations, running divisions, maybe they've started a business. These are folks who have a lot on their plate. And maybe that's you. Maybe you have felt some of these tensions that I'm going to talk about. You get promoted, you build a team, you start a business, you run a company, you take on more and more responsibility. And somewhere along the way, you stop working on yourself, not because you don't care, because somehow it just feels wrong. You've got people counting on you. You've got fires to put out, taking a morning to think or scheduling a coaching session or reading a book about your own development. Somehow that starts to feel indulgent, like you're taking time away from the very people you're supposed to be serving. And I get it because that impulse comes from a good place. It comes from a genuine desire to serve. But here's the cost that almost nobody talks about. When you stop leading yourself, the quality of your leadership declines. At first, it's slow, it's invisible, but it's absolutely diminishing. So we have this tension. You have more responsibility. And if you're not investing in yourself, your capacity to contribute is decreasing. That's a really powerful reframe that we have to talk about because your clarity gets fuzzy, your patience thins out, your decision making, it gets reactive instead of being intentional. And the people you're trying to serve, man, they feel it. They may not be able to name it, but they feel it. Think about it this way. If you lead 10 people and you show up at 60% because you haven't invested in your own growth, your own clarity, your own health, those 10 people get a 60% version of you. And what if they each lead 10 people? Well, that's potentially 110 people being impacted by a diluted version of yourself that you didn't have to settle for. The ripple effect of your neglect is bigger than you think. Let me say that again because I think it's something that we really have to wrap our heads around. The ripple effect of our own neglect is bigger than you think. Some of you have heard me talk about Colonel Greg Camp. He was my first real leadership mentor. I was 21, 22 years old, and I was running a third shift call center. And I thought leadership was about climbing. I thought it was all about me. Greg taught me that it wasn't about me. It was about ensuring and empowering the success of others, whether they worked for me or not, whether they worked for the company or not. That was the foundation. And I have built my entire life's work on that understanding. It's not about me. But here's what it took me years to reconcile. If leadership is about them, where do I fit in? When is it okay to work on me? I used to feel guilty about it. Like investing in my own development meant that I was taking something away from the people that I was serving. Yes, I would go to conferences or courses, but investing in my own development during the week, taking a half a day for a clarity break or time to really work on myself so that I could show up, I struggled with that. It took me a long time and some hard lessons to understand that leading yourself first is not a contradiction of servant leadership. It's the prerequisite. Let me tell you about something that happened recently. I was facilitating a quarterly strategy and vision session with the leadership team, a very successful services organization. And we did an exercise that was designed to force honest conversation about what's working and what's not surface level stuff here, the real stuff, the stuff we needed to talk about, because if we didn't, we could not become the team that we were capable of. And we started with 5 minutes of silent individual reflection. Three questions only. And I want you to hear these because they're going to matter later. Number one, what must change for us to be the firm that we aspire to be? Question two, what pattern keeps repeating that's holding us back? And question three, where are we saying yes when we should be saying no? And then we opened it up, an hour and a half of discussion around these hard questions. Why do we consistently take on more than we can complete? Is it our planning process? Is it our inability to say no? Is it scope creep? Unrealistic expectations about our own capacity? We dug into the gap between committed capacity and actual capacity. And we asked, are we being honest about how long things take? Who has the authority to say no? Where do cross-functional handoffs break down? What's not working in how we coordinate? And then we hit on the question that really cuts through all the noise. What will we tell another firm with our exact situation? If we were consultants looking at our own patterns, what would we recommend? There's a wonderful book, Tim Ferriss's Tools of Titans, and I love it. It's one of my colleagues and accountability partners. We've been going back and forth on this book for a while now. And he sent me a text message just last week with this quote. And I think it's so darn appropriate for this episode. On one level, wisdom is nothing more than the ability to take your own advice. It's actually very easy to give people good advice. It's very hard to follow the advice that you know is good. If someone came to me with my list of problems, I would be able to sort that person out very easily. And that's Sam Harris. I love that quote because it's so true. We just can't see ourselves. We can't lead ourselves unless we give the time and the space to do so. And here's what I noticed when we were in the room together. Those questions, every single one of them, landed differently depending on who was hearing them. Some people heard organizational questions, but the leaders in the room, the ones who are really honest with themselves, they heard personal questions. What must change for me to be the leader I aspire to be? What patterns keep repeating in my leadership? Where am I saying yes when I should be saying no? And that's the insight I want to give to you today. The same rigor that you would bring to assessing your organization, the honest audit, the forcing function questions, the willingness to name what's broken. That same rigor needs to be pointed at yourself. Most leaders will do this work for their team and never do it for themselves. And I think that's backwards. Here's the truth that most leaders won't admit. You're not stuck because you don't know what to do. You're stuck because you haven't codified how you lead. Our Vision to Victory Leadership Accelerator is where we fix that. It's a 12-week experience where we install the leadership operating system, the frameworks, the cadence, the metrics that turn your instincts into a repeatable system your team can follow. You'll walk out with clarity on your vision, a strategy that aligns your team, and an execution rhythm that compounds over time. This is not a course. It's a small group of leaders building together. If you're ready to lead with clarity instead of chaos, go to v2vleadership.com to learn more. So here's what I walk leaders through and what I'd encourage you to walk through yourself. 3 activation steps. And this is exactly what I do when I work with leaders and organizations and when I'm working on myself. And today I'm giving it to you. Assess, clarify, align. ACA. 3 simple steps. They're repeatable and it's something you can come back to every quarter. Step number 1, assess the execution gap. Get brutally honest about the distance between where you are and where you want to be. Not where your team is, not where your revenue is, where you are as a leader, as a person, as a decision maker. Run your own honest audit. The same kind of audit I ran with that team, but pointed at yourself. Ask yourself those 3 questions. What must change for me to be the leader I aspire to be? What patterns keep repeating in my leadership that are not working? And where am I saying yes when I should be saying no? And then the one that cuts the deepest. If I were a consultant looking at my own patterns, what would I recommend? You can't close a gap you haven't measured. Most leaders skip the honest appraisal because it's uncomfortable, but this is where the work starts. Step number 2, clarify your intentional work state. Once you've assessed where you are, the next step is to get clear on where you're going and how you're operating day to day. Most leaders operate in a default work state. Their day is driven by other people's inputs, the environment, the urgent, the inbox, the next meeting, and they're reacting, not leading. An intentional work state is different. It's when you're clear on what you're doing for others, for the system, and for yourself. And it requires something most leaders resist: protected time to think. Schedule it. Real, blocked, protected time, not to check email, not to catch up on Slack. Time to think about what matters most. And then you codify it, write it down. What are your priorities for the next 90 days? Not your team's, yours. What does leading well look like for you right now? Leaders who don't clarify their own work state default to everyone else's, and reactive leadership has a diminishing return. Step number 3, build alignment. Not alone. Now, here's where this gets different from every other self-improvement message you've heard. Take your clarity and test it with others, mentors, peers, people who do not work for you, people who don't have a reason to tell you what you want to hear. Share your language, share your priorities, and ask, can you see my blind spots? Does this make sense? What am I missing? Because leading yourself first does not mean leading yourself alone. Self-leadership is not a solo act. It's the practice of being intentional enough to bring others into your growth process, authentically, vulnerably, on purpose. Lead yourself first, but don't lead yourself lonely. So what does this actually look like in practice? Let me make it concrete for you. Let's say that you're a leader, maybe running a division, maybe running the company. Things are going okay, not great, not terrible, but you had this nagging feeling that you're coasting, that you're managing, not leading, that you've stopped growing and you're not sure when it happened. And here's what I would tell you to do. Step number 1, assess this week. Block 30 minutes, close the door, open a blank page, and answer the same 3 questions that I gave to that team. Point it at yourself. What must change for me to be the leader I aspire to be? What pattern keeps repeating that's holding me back? And where am I saying yes when I should be saying no? Write your answers down. Don't edit them. Don't make them pretty. Just be honest. Then ask yourself that bonus question, the one nobody asks themselves. If I were a consultant looking at my own situation, what would I recommend? Write that answer down too, and I guarantee that you'll surprise yourself. Over the next 2 weeks, take what you wrote down and turn it into 2 or 3 priority statements for yourself. Not goals for your team, priorities for your own leadership development. Codify them. Put them somewhere where you'll see them and make them specific enough that you'd know if you were living them or not. I'll give you an example. Mine are in my end of day journaling routine. I cannot avoid these questions because I know they're coming at the end of every day. Within 30 days, align. Share these priorities with one person that you trust, a mentor, a coach, a peer, someone who will tell you the truth. And ask them, do you see what I'm seeing? What am I missing? Where are my blind spots? What changes isn't everything at once. What changes is the direction. You move from being reactive to being intentional, from being isolated to connected, from grinding to growing. And the people around you, your 10, your 100, your thousands, they begin to feel it too. So here's today's takeaway. And I want you to sit with this one. Leading yourself first is not selfish. It is the most generous thing you can do for the people you serve. Because when you show up with clarity, with intentionality, with honesty about where you are and where you're going, you don't just lead better, you multiply. Your 10 become 110. Those 100 become 1,000. And that ripple started with you having the courage to invest in yourself. You can't lead from an unexamined life. The work you do on yourself is the foundation of every other leadership investment that you make. When was the last time that you gave yourself permission to lead yourself first? not managed your calendar, not optimized your workflows, actually sat down and assessed where you are, clarified where you want to go, and brought someone alongside to help. If it's been a while, this is your invitation. Block the 30 minutes, run the assessment, and start the conversation. Hey, before you go, if this episode helped you see leadership differently, I have 3 personal requests. First, and this is the most important one, share this with one leader who needs it. Think of someone in your network who's frustrated with their team's execution or is trying to scale their own impact. Copy this episode link right now and text them. Hey, I just listened to this episode and I think you'll get real value from it. That simple act of sharing, that is servant leadership in action. Second, subscribe to Leadership Unlocked. Whether you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or your favorite podcast player, just hit subscribe or the follow button. That way you won't miss the next episode and it helps us reach more leaders like you. And third, if you're willing, this would be a huge help for us. Leave a 5-star rating and write a quick review. I know it takes 60 seconds of your time, but here's what it does. It helps other leaders discover the show. Every rating, every review, it's how we expand our impact together. So those 3 things, share with a friend, subscribe, leave a review. I'm deeply appreciative and that would give us so much help. Thanks for being part of the Leadership Unlocked community. Now go create some clarity for others.